those
You
who
know
need
the CS and he didn't know you'll request that list when he came here.
what
So maybe you
mechanism
can
do you
give
have
the
in
minister
place
time to compile that
to
data
ensure
and then to provide
that
to the
one,
Senate, to this
the
House.
correct
But
people are
where
the
he
ones
sits, I'm
receiving social
afraid he cannot be
protection
able to give the list
in this
now.
country?
But he can be able to work on it. And then number two, the question by
two,
Senator Kavindu is not now
that
on the
where
compositions. It
there
was
might
specific
be
on whether these people can be recruited in the
deficiencies
ongoing
in the
programs,
resource,
like OVCs
that we can
and the older people.
confirm
So
that it
if
is
Senator Kavindu wants a
equitably
substantive question,
distributed
to ask substantive
among those
on
who need
compensation of the victims.
to
I know the ad hoc
access
committee
it.
that you chair is
Where
handling
can we
this matter. Therefore, you descended to go the
that
ad hoc committee way. But
register
if you want
as
that
members of
substantive
parliament who
answer,
carry out
as
oversight
the CS said, you will consult
to
the CS
ensure
for
that
Foreign Affairs
truly
to know
those
exactly where the
who need
what is the position.
to access
Maybe I request then you do that
social protection are the ones
substantive question to the Minister of
social
Foreign
protection.
Affairs.
I would want to know and access
Yes,
that
so
resource.
maybe that will solve all these issues. Yes. Therefore, I want them to go to the second question, but the Senator Kavidu, you under the second supplementary
Speaker,
question.
thank you very much.
Executive, then we go to the next
In terms of
question by Senator
access
Samson
to
Change.
social protection, there's a system that has been
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
working, and we can
My
always
second
improve on it.
question
We go
is,
to the ground using the government
Mr.
system.
Honorable
and we're able
CS,
to identify
those with severe
who deserve to be in
disability
the system in terms
who need
of
24-hour
age, in terms
care
of
are also
disability, very,
eligible
very poor
to be
families,
enrolled
vulnerable families, and
in
we
the
are able
persons
to
with
put
severe
them in the list, and
disability.
they go through the criteria.
What are you doing about those
and they are
ones?
onboarded.
And just a follow-up
When I
with
served as
the
the governor of
question that
Machakos,
that
the issue
Senator
of
Mandago asked.
older citizens saying that they
Honorable
have never
CS,
received
you
their
say
monies
that you are not
keep on
aware
coming,
of,
all the time. So
the
it's an
people
ongoing system
who
of
are
onboarding.
working with
In
the
terms of being able to provide the
the
lists to you,
cooperative and Mwalimu Sacco.
this House
of
and
Fundi Sacco.
the Parliament of Kenya passed a
The
law on data
CS
protection.
who left
That
before
does
you
not
came
allow
in.
us to
We had called him at
provide,
the ad hoc committee
private
and we raised all these questions
of people's
and he was
names
with his
and where
team
they are,
just like you are with your team
you.
today.
However,
and I believe there is no vacuum
as
in
a
government.
member
So
of
you should be
Parliament
aware
and
of that
member of the
question
Member
because
of
we
Senate,
asked them
if you
last
have
year actually,
identified individuals
and they
in
were
your
there.
county
So they should give you an
that you
update so
believe
that you
have been
can
left
answer.
out,
Thank you.
have not been covered, please send me that list, and we'll double check to see whether they are being covered.
Thank you very much.
And
I do believe,
we'll ensure
Mr. Speaker,
that if they
Madam
need to be
Kivin,
covered,
thank you for the question,
we'll make sure that they are
that
covered.
those ones with
so that,
severe disabilities,
we
and
can't
anybody
assume
with
that we know
disability.
everything on the ground.
And I call upon this
Number
House and
two,
Kenyans,
if
we
you
also
know
have
a
cases
Kenyan
that we're dealing with, and this is
somewhere
whereby
who
some
has
of our
disability, who is
older
suffering,
citizens
and they are
are
not in this
passed on
program,
to
please
glory,
let us know.
and they're no longer here.
Let the chief know,
and maybe
let
their
I'll speak to my
caregivers
colleague,
are still receiving
Minister of Interior,
some of the
guidance
monies
is given
that they were receiving.
up the chain,
So
let
we are
us know.
let them
Talk
talk
to
to
the
the MCA,
MCA, talk to members of
to
Parliament,
ensure that that
either
money
to the
is
MP
stopped
or the
so it
senator.
can go to
let
others
me know,
deserving,
and I can
and
assure
also
you I will
we'll
take
need your
action
help
immediately
identify somebody
because
has
you know
passed
we're in this
away,
country,
and that
some
family
people cannot
tells
just
you,
suffer
or you know that
as
the
if,
caregiver
still
you know,
receive that
they are the
money,
rich end of the earth,
so that
and
we can
others
be able to
are
work
doing well.
together.
The
as one
second question
country,
about, and I'm well guided,
supporting
Madam,
as
about
members of
the question that was given
government.
to my predecessors.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Speaker.
so I will follow up and we'll provide as much information as we can. Thank you for that guidance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question. Question number 051.
Asante, Mstahiki Speaker.
Can you ask your question?
Mstahiki Speaker, nataka
thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
kwamba
I raise pass 1 to standing order 51C.
I will give you
kwamba
the question and proceed.
wale
Mr. Speaker, I
ambao
raise under
walipatikana
standing order 51C 6.
wamekuwa
A
na
cabinet
majeraha
secretary shall appear
waliumia
in person on the
wakati
day of
wa
which
ile
respective question is listed for response.
kitendo
1 shall respond to the question. That is B. C may, with the permission of Speaker,
fanya kile kitendo pale
make a statement. Mr. Speaker, I'm rising on standing order
Nyumba
51C6. Because,
ya
Mr. Speaker, I don't know what happens
ubalozi
when a cabinet
Amerika.
secretary comes with a
tarehe
half-baked
hii
answer or a
walioumia pale
kindergarten-like answer
ndani.
against the responses
Waki-
that, and it is,
Wakenya
Mr. Speaker, in the response, he has
wananchi
indicated
wa-
that they are attached.
Chelgei,
Yes, Mr.
when do
Speaker.
you sing
Je,
parliamentary language?
Okay,
ana habari ya
when he
kwamba
comes with unsatisfactory
waliokuwa
answer, because
wa
the
Amerika
response I have received, Mr. Speaker, said there is no list attached.
waliweza kulipwa
And even in the response, I was given
zao
not
za
within 24 hours.
kumia na
You ask your
majeraha
question, then you prosecute
na wakapelekwa
for issues.
hospitali.
Okay,
na
Mr.
wakaangaliwa
Speaker,
vizuri
but I
sana
want to
na
register my
serikali ya Amerika.
displeasure by that response. But let me ask the
Kwanza.
question, and you realize, and the member
Nitamwomba
realize,
Senator
Mr.
Kavindu
Speaker,
wasikize
that no justice was done to this question. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask question number 051
ili itakuwa
on the following. To ask the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. One, what are the roles of National
Sija kupata
Employment Authority (NEA) in the recruitment of Kenyans seeking job
Asante.
opportunities in foreign
Speaker.
countries? And could the Cabinet Secretary
vile
state
nataka
the
kuuliza-
requirements to be met by recruitment agency permitted
Je,
to
ni
operate
juhudi
by
gani
NEA in the country?
ambao
B, Mr. Speaker,
yeye kama
could the
waziri
Cabinet Secretary
na wizara
provide a
yake
list of
ni wahusika
recruitment agencies cleared by
juhudi
National
gani
Employment
zinafanywa na
Authority,
serikali? Kwa sababu
and
mimi
what
nilikuwa
steps
Amerika.
are used to ensure
Hili jambo
that
nililifanya
all
sana.
companies registered
Lakini
under
unaona
National
kwamba
Employment
zile
Authority
pesa
Integrated
bado
Management
hazijapatikana
System,
za kuweza
NIEMIS,
kulipa wale Wakenya.
are monitored and
Ni
regulated.
juhudi
Mr.
gani
Speaker,
wizara
C,
yake
could the Cabinet
inafanya
Secretary
kufikia hivi sasa
also provide
kuona
a
kwamba
list
zile fidia
of
za zile
Kenyans
pesa
who have
zilizotolewa?
successfully
Manake Amerika
applied
wametoa
for
pesa.
jobs in the diaspora
Lakini
following the
sasa Wakenya
numerous
mpaka hivi sasa
agreements
bado hizo pesa
between
hazijawafikia.
Kenya,
Ni juhudi
for
gani
example, like the
wizara
other day
yake
with German and
inafanya
other nations,
kuona
and including the
kwamba,
countries that are deployed to
zile
avoid
pesa
misinformation.
zilizotolewa
Mr. Speaker,
kuweza
finally,
kuwalipa hawa waliopata
what is the
majeraha
status
zinaweza
of the investigation into the operations of Mrs. Worth Star Africa Limited, an agency operated by one Pastor James Njohi that reportedly defrauded Kenyans over Kenya shillings 600 million with a promise to assist them secure jobs abroad? And could the Cabinet Secretary state the plans, if any, to compensate these victims, the Speaker? I thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Senator Chergai, for your question. The role of the National Employment Authority in recruitment of Kenyans for jobs in the diaspora is well stated in our documents. It is, and I'm going to go through them quickly, to advise on the formulation of employment policies and strategies for national and county governments, facilitate the employment placement of job seekers internationally, and facilitate the implementation of national policies on employment. There is also a secretariat to the vetting committee, licensing and accreditation of private employment agencies, regulation of the activities of private employment agencies, collection, analysis, and dissemination of labor market information, building the capacities of private employment agencies, sensitizing and advising job seekers, handling complaints from job seekers, promoting ethical recruitment, and cancelling the registrations of an employment agency that fails to observe the provisions of the existing laws and regulations. The requirements to be met for a recruitment agency to be permitted to be operated by NEA is in our website, which is
Shukran sana Senator Mazayo kwa swali lako la kina kabisa.
neaims.go.ke. But I've also listed vizuri here kwamba tunaelewa kwamba kutakuwa an application letter for registration, a certified copy of the certificate of incorporation as a limited company, company articles and memorandum of association, company CR2 for the current year, must have a minimum share capital of 5 million shillings, a copy of a county government license, show that you are operating legally, company tax compliance certificate for the current year, registered and fully equipped physical office with the prescribed sizes. A company director must also submit a copy of his or her or their IDs, 2 passport size photos, current police clearance certificate, a valid work permit in case of any foreign director, certified academic certificates, which must be certified by the Directorate of Quality Assurance of the Ministry of Education. Company manager must also submit the following documents: a degree certificate in business-related field from a recognized university in Kenya, that is also certified by the Quality Assurance of Ministry of Education, an appointment letter to work for that company with clear terms, and a copy of an ID. Mr. Speaker, it is very clear that the process is heavy, that you really need to qualify. And these are very many requirements. You need to qualify because we need people who are in this industry and we need people who are valid. That's why we ask all these questions, all these documents, including a visiting of the space where they work to ensure that it is not a briefcase company. And then you are given your document. The second question about vetting by Interministerial Vetting Committee. An interministerial committee vets all private employment agencies seeking registration and renewal of licenses. It consists of the ministry responsible for labor, immigration, internal security, foreign affairs, and the AG. During the vetting, the applications made by private employment are looked at, and making the independent recommendations approval or non-approval is also deliberated. In other words, it is not enough for you just to provide the documents. It's not enough that you qualify. Yes, we take you one step further. Yes, you may qualify on paper, but should you, in terms of national intelligence, are you a crook? You know, have you been bad somewhere else? Are you working with other people? Are you, we go further to ensure that the vetting weeds out the bad people. And the vetting from what I've said, about 30 to 40% never qualify, even though they had the documents. So it is a real operation to ensure that we get the best. So the government here does its job. After approval, you pay a full registration fee, and then you have to be a member of a recognized association of private employment agencies, because we need somebody also to keep on monitoring you, so that when you go rogue, they're able to tell us. And then you execute 1.5 million security bond to the bank. This is for people who are engaging in foreign recruitment. Mr. Speaker, sir, tomorrow, sidetrack just to add to this, I'll be holding a meeting, a follow-up meeting with the recruitment agencies that recruit for people in Kenya and mostly for overseas. We had a meeting where we deliberated about how we can work together. How do we cut the bureaucracy? How do we identify the crooks? Where is the problem? How do we reform the National Training Institute, NITA? How do we reform the labor ministry to ensure that it is current in terms of the needs of the market? And so we've been holding meetings, and even after this session, I'm going to hold a meeting with my staff to deliberate on new regulations and new policies that we will announce tomorrow after we've had this public participation with a team to streamline this industry, to toa wakora, and to ensure that it is efficient. The list of recruitment agencies cleared to operate by NEA can also be found in our nims.go.ke. It is current. Some fall out every day, some are added every day. So if I can give you a list today, and tomorrow you say, how come this company is no longer in the list, or how come this company, because it is alive. As we sit here, there are others being onboarded, the others being removed. And it even shows you the ones that the licenses have expired and who are in the process of renewing. One of the things that I'm going to announce tomorrow is about the duration of time of the renewals. The country has been crying, the community has been crying that the renewal of every year doesn't work very well, because by the time you organize yourself to get people to organize, take them abroad, your time is gone. So we are going to look at how we can extend the time and how to make it easier for people to be able to register and work within the system. The question number C, the list of Kenyans who have successfully applied for jobs in diaspora, including the countries they are deployed. We have attached a list, and it's presented here, cabinet, of the list of the Kenyans, and we hope that the list will grow now that we are trying to make this as efficient as possible from the Ministry of Labor. The status of investigation to the operation of Miss World Start Africa Limited. This is a case being handled by the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. I will be holding a meeting with the senior leadership of the DCI. They told me that they are working with close to 1,000 cases of fraud, of Kenyans who've been defrauded, and action will be taken. On the supplementary question that was asked by Senator Cherengaya whether the ministry will compensate the victims. The ministry does not engage in defrauding. But the person who defrauds, if they are found guilty, arrested, charged, if they are found guilty, then I think part of the requirement will be for their assets to be taken and compensation to be done, not just for them just to serve time, but they need to repay back the money that they stole from innocent Kenyans. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I submit.
Senator Chalagai, do you have any supplementary question?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker, not point of order, but it should go on record that the Cabinet Secretary is misleading the House. You know why? The list is saying he has filed through the Secretariat. It's not there. So why is he playing with the minds of Kenyans? Mr. Speaker, we are serious people. We don't wake up here to come and joke around. If the CS cannot take his work seriously, Mr. Speaker, he should be sanctioned, because the issue Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, have been conned daily by fake recruitment agencies, Mr. Speaker. So I find it a disrespect to this House that a whole Cabinet Secretary, who is not new, to come before the Senate and mislead the House, to mislead people who have sat even in Cabinet, including Senator Onyonga, who was Assistant Minister, Mr. Speaker. Is it even fair? The Cabinet Secretary must, Mr. Speaker, apologize to this House for lying, Mr. Speaker, not lying, for misrepresenting, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chalgai,
Number two, Mr. Speaker.
just have your seat
Okay.
for some communication. The Secretariat is following up on this list to check whether it was attached or not. So before you make those allegations, let us first confirm. You know, Senate is House of Records. We confirm first, and then you can maybe comment. But what I want to do is to ask the Secretary to confirm whether this list was attached, and also your officers also to counter-check whether they did it. But meanwhile, you can ask your supplementary questions.
Mr. Speaker, and you have to note that unless you struck off the answer, because in his response, the CS says he has attached. So I hope the Secretariat will strike out that part of the answer so that we don't mislead Kenyans. One question so that I allow other colleagues, I'll come later for mine. Mr. Speaker, you agree with me, and this is my first supplementary question. No wonder Kenyans are conned daily. Because if the Cabinet Secretary cannot provide a list of cleared recruitment agencies in the country by telling Kenyans to go to website, how will be somebody in Machakos, somewhere in Tala, have an internet? If the CS could come and table the list of all recruitment agencies, those who have been blacklisted, is it hard, Mr. Speaker? How will his grandmother somewhere in Makweni in Wote know from where Mr. Fuluka comes from, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, it must be even my own grandmother somewhere in Nandi, Mr. Speaker, even in Bomet, how can they go to website? No wonder, Mr. Speaker, everybody is gone. Can the CS, Mr. Speaker, even in Meru where you come from, can the CS table the agencies that have been cleared to do recruitment, that have been blacklisted, Mr. Speaker, that are pending clearance? Then I can have satisfaction of my response to us. Otherwise, if it doesn't table, Mr. Speaker, then we are gerrymandering with the lives of Kenyans.
Senator Chalgai, you know the one went digital a long time ago. And that is why I think in that spirit, the CS is maybe requesting you to just click on the website and get the list. Because the one has gone digital on so many things. Do you have a smartphone with you? Do you have a smartphone? We can test this website, whether it is working.
See, I thought I should go on record. Mr. Speaker, this is not about Cherargei, it's about the ordinary Kenyans in Kibra who don't have smartphones, Mr. Speaker. How many Kenyans today have smartphones? Even in Meru itself.
Senator Chalgai,
It might be 1%.
Because this is your question. I'm just asking whether you attempted even to click on the website. Did you try?
I am asking on behalf of Kenyans, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senator
It is
Onyonga.
the Cabinet Minister, Mr. Speaker, to provide information. Even in Nandi, the people who can access smartphones across the country are less than 1%, Mr. Speaker. So it is not fair, Mr. Speaker, that you allow the CS to slide with.
No, the CS will answer your question, but I was just asking you a supplementary.
No, I
question
can
also from
prove,
me.
yes, but
Whether it
Mr.
is
Speaker,
working,
I
because
didn't
I
get that
wanted to
information
confirm.
because when you go to website of NEA,
As the
there is
chair-
no recruitment that has been blacklisted, that is pending approval, that is functional, including first choice recruitment agency, the worldwide, Mr. Speaker. So the point, Mr. Speaker, we are asking these questions on behalf of Kenyans. I'm not asking on behalf of Cherargei or my family or my
Have
other
your seat.
interests.
Have your seat. But also, Senator Cherargei, don't you know that also Kenyans would like to know whether you are able to use internet? Waziri, respond to the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I'd like to say that as far as I know with my records, I signed the list. I attached it, and it was delivered to Parliament. We'll follow up with my staff to see whether the people did the right thing. So I cannot say it is attached if it is not attached. As part of my answer, it was delivered. And so we'll check if there's any misnomer. My apologies, it will be given, but I believe the list is provided because I looked at the list, I signed it myself, and got it attached. Number two, Mr. Speaker, it is important, I want to say two things. One, Kenyans who are applying for jobs, full-time job. If you want to apply for a job and you want to go and work in India, in Turkey, in Saudi Arabia, in many countries, if you're applying for a job, you do research about the job from wherever you are. And you may not have a smartphone, but you're a young man, and the Gen Zs who are applying for this, they have access. They can talk to somebody with a smartphone, and they can be able to look. What I want to tell Kenyans is this: be very careful about recruitment agencies that come to your village and tell you they're recruiting you, and they want you to send you to overseas, and that you need to pay them some money to process your documents. That is why we have this list that is alive. And I know paper is important because the list I may even give you, the list I've given you on paper, has already changed because it is live. And in the words of US presidential candidate Kamala Harris, we are not going back. We have to move forward with technology. We can't continue going back on paper. We need to move forward with technology. So I do understand the challenges that we are facing. That is why the government is rolling out the digital network that is going to encompass basically every village in our country where there are schools, and so that we ensure that people can be connected and you can actually log in for free and be able to check. So I urge Kenyans, and they can talk to their leaders, to their senators, and I like the spirit Senator Cherargei has in protecting his people. Talk to your senator, talk to your MCA, say this person is recruiting me. Are they valid? So we can double check so that you are not conned. The other thing that I'm doing is that I want to work with the agencies in a way that if the agency, because the agencies are being paid a fee, a commission, that wherever it is possible, which should be about 90% of the time, they should not charge a Kenyan for any processing fee. So they absorb that as part of their cost, so that Kenyans are not defrauded, being told, pay this amount of money, we'll take you overseas, unauza shamba, unauza gari, unauza, all your savings, you put them there, and then you find the person is fake. So we want to get into a system whereby let them get access to financing, get their people all sorted, and then they'll be paid their fee. So it's a service they're providing. They don't need to charge the Kenyans. So we're working through that system to ensure that people get their right. So I urge leaders in this country to please also support us in ensuring we identify rogue ones. And the best way is to go into the internet, look at that live link, which keeps on changing every hour, to ensure that that person maybe say they are there, by a day or two, they have been removed. So keep on checking before you engage and sign documents. I submit, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Kadri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question to the CS is whether to confirm that the government has appropriate bilateral agreements that have safeguarded the rights of all workers being recruited to go and work abroad. In particular, noting that a number of very vulnerable workers have ended up abroad and come back in coffins. And most of those are not the kind of person you seem to have in mind who goes to a website or who has a smartphone that would actually do the research that you are thinking of. Can we have copies of these bilateral agreements submitted to ensure that it has clauses that protect against malpractices, including retainment of passports of workers who go abroad, including retention of their salaries for months on end in the name of paying for their air tickets and paying for the agency fees? I would want to see how the government has protected. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I want to know whether the ministry has set aside a budget to actually sensitize those who cannot access websites and the lot that I'm speaking about by discussing these issues on radios, listing the genuine and the not genuine agents in order for the ordinary, desperate girl in the far-flung village in Dori who wants to go and work in Saudi Arabia is able to know that they are being conned.
Okay, yes.
Thank you, Madam Senator, for that brilliant question. It's a very, very good question. One of the things that we are doing and the reforms that are bringing that we'll be announcing tomorrow is a new way of training. We'll ensure that anybody going, and especially to some of these countries where these issues are, and they should undergo a training. And during the training, they'll be empowered. They'll be empowered with information about what their rights are. Your passport is yours. You should never give your passport to anybody else. You give your passport maybe to the agent as they are processing, but they give it back to you before you leave the country. Nobody should hold your passport. Nobody should hold your documents. We are going to empower them on how to get in touch with Kenyan government officials of how to protect for their rights so that they're empowered. I'm going to ensure that the system is streamlined, that before anybody leaves our country to go get a job, they know they can count on this country. Mr. Speaker, sir, on the question about the budget to sensitize, I'd like to say I'm even going to take it a step further. We can't be operating from Nairobi. Kenya is not Nairobi. I'm working on a program to go and visit basically all the constituencies, all the counties to start with, where we will have meetings with agents, with jobs, with programs of enlightening Kenyans, working with county governments, but also mostly with members of parliament, so that we can be able to empower Kenyans and give them the information. And we'll be able to communicate to media and vernacular stations. We'll be able to tell the stories that we are telling so that people are aware. And I'll even go a step further with the guidance given, whereby we are going to run adverts and communication programs to empower Kenyans. Not only about the challenges they face, but also of the various opportunities. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm currently looking at it this way. When I was on our way back from Germany, I met a number of Kenyans at an airport in the Middle East, and they are working, you know, security guards, others were working in hospitality. Then when I was there, I met a Kenyan who was coming back, said he works in that country as an engineer. So the jobs you're talking about are not just the household jobs that people talk about. We are talking about a data bank of hundreds of thousands of jobs that we want to accumulate for people who are journalists, for doctors, nurses. We have a demand for nurses, but we realize that nurses don't even know that they are needed, you know, and we are working on all this. There's a question I want to, Mr. Speaker, to reply, and that is the issue of depositing all our agreements. I'm going to ensure that this House has all those labor agreements so that you can also be able to scrutinize them. We are going a step further in our agreements. We are trying to ensure that our qualifications match those qualifications of those countries so that they don't have to go and retrain again, so that our job qualifications are accepted automatically. We're also making sure that they are protected by immigration and interior governments over there from harassment and also from being deported without being heard. So we are looking at all those rights. So we've learned our lesson over the last few years. I'm quite lucky, and I thank the president for putting me in this docket, because the experience I garnered as a Minister of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora is really coming in handy, because these are not new things to me. Now I'm in the right ministry to correct all the problems that have been going on. I submit, Madam Speaker.
Senator Mofaya.
The mic is defective. It's working. These innovations, Madam. Madam Speaker, I want to revisit the very first question that the CS was interrogating, and I want to know what is his ministry doing to make sure that the physically challenged people, in some cultures, Honorable Madam Speaker, these people face some cultural stigma, such that they don't even come out to register for benefits, maybe in the government. What initiative is the ministry trying to undertake to make sure that these people are whipped into registering so that they can benefit from your ministry? Number two, Honorable Speaker, we have seen very old people travel to far-flung places in search of these benefits. What is the ministry doing to make sure that they devolve these services very close to the people who are supposed to benefit from those services? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
CS, you can respond.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I think our Honourable Senator came a bit just got in. We've already tackled this issue, and I'll repeat myself. We talked about the physically challenged and how we are bringing them all aboard and how their families, and we've got teams on the ground. And I requested you that if a member of parliament knows somebody who is not in the system, not only the disabled, but also other vulnerable, children and the aged, to let me know, and we're going to handle. We had a big discussion, lasted quite a while on that issue. On the other one about the far-flung, I think I lost the final question about people far-flung places. I already made an announcement right here, and I announced a new policy that from December 1st, we are going digital. They'll get their money on their phone. So we had a discussion about that earlier before you came. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Onyonka. As Senator Onyonka is speaking, I'd request Senator Wafula to come in so that we move on to the next question.
Thank
Senator Onyonka.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. CS, Madam Speaker, I would like you to protect me because my colleagues seem to be
Order,
consulting.
honorable members, can we hear Senator Onyonka in silence, please?
Thank you. CS, I am happy to see you here today because I know you as a friend of mine and somebody I've worked with before. I'm actually going to ask a very simple question. If you remember when you started talking about the declaration of the provision of information, and you brought